So let's start. Let's already start because we just had a ton of things happen. We had the Azaka right now with the Rockets and everything. Oh my God, that was
Yeah.
crazy. Perfect timing, right? When you want to start a podcast. Thank you so much, Hezbollah. Uh, but um, but yeah, Daron, thank you so much for being on the podcast and you know, tell us a little bit about yourself before we start. Who you are, where you're from.
So I come from right now, presently living just outside of Jerusalem in the mountains and the hills. I'm your Israeli hillbilly that just lives the country life, quiet, and came down here to Central Israel where you guys are living to do this podcast. And it's like night and day difference, not just in topography, nature, trees, mountains, but here you have a sea next to you, the heat. So I'm like, all of a sudden, like I'm hot down here. Where back home, I'm like, it's pretty good weather right now, um, even though we're entering into the winter months here in Israel. Um, but yeah, that's where I'm coming from. And again, I mean, like the big difference really too is how quiet it is where I live. We get a rocket alarm once in a few weeks at best. And you guys, just as we sat down to start the podcast, you guys were getting pummeled here in Central Israel and have been getting pummeled for months. Um,
It's
so,
crazy that you
so
say
such a
that.
difference of reality, right? I mean,
It's crazy that you say that because we normally aren't like that in
yeah,
Renana specifically. Now you're talking
right.
Tel Aviv, you're talking
Talking Tel
about
Aviv,
Herzliya and all
yeah,
these other places.
yeah,
Renana specifically has not gotten many rockets. Okay, throughout the war, throughout the beginning of the war, I was like, oh wow, I'm so lucky I live in Renana. We never get anything. We never have to deal
right,
with
right.
this. You know what I mean? But
But
now it's like
yeah,
every other day
so when I come down here, then right, it's like,
or
um,
up here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, for you guys, yeah, yeah. Well, no, because when you come from Jerusalem, you always come down. Because Jerusalem, you always go up. It's Aliyah to
Nachon,
Jerusalem.
nachon.
So yeah, forgive me for my spiritual work.
No, you're on it.
My spiritual way of speaking about Jerusalem. But you're right. We are coming up to northern Israel, if you will. But this is still the central Israel. And yeah, I mean, it's like for me coming down here, it's like a taste in the day and in the life of most Israelis who have been living under this insanity for over a year now. We're north of 400 days since the beginning of post October 7th war. And a lot of my friends live in this area, live in the Haifa area. Haifa has been hit insanely. All of northern Israel's pummeled. Whole communities are basically destroyed. Um, and that's something that we just got a taste of actually in my last deployment. Um, so since the beginning of the war, we've had 3 deployments in my unit.
Which
Um,
unit, if you can say?
we're basically a special forces unit that does we do like it's a special mobility unit is a good way to put it. Similar to, I think, for some people might know of the SAS history, where they had the long range mobility units in the
Okay.
desert that were fighting against the Nazis in Egypt and all
Wow.
that. Um, so in a way, it's kind of like some of what those guys did, minus the fact that that's the SAS, and we're nothing near the SAS as far as our level of training and what have you. But when it comes to mobility and the missions done by Hummers, we're one of the top units in the military that does this. And this unit, combined with actually quite a few other units that were birthed after the Second Lebanon War, is what this unit is. So we're actually a post 2006 unit. So so essentially this is a new form of warfare for the IDF. And my commander, who founded the unit originally, where we started, in for anybody who's been watching the news and seeing what's been happening in Gaza, you might have heard of Goldfuss, the General Goldfuss, who was the head general of the 98th Fire Battalion. So we started with his fire battalion that he was over, and that has been one of the main units, not units, but it's a division of the military, one of the main divisions that has been fighting in Gaza since the beginning of the war. So we started with them, and right before the war broke out, the paratroopers made a request. The not the reserve units, but the enlisted, so the 35th battalion of the paratroopers, they made a request and said, we want to have a special mobility unit for us as well. And my commander left our original unit, and just about, I'd say, 4 months before the war broke out, we actually inaugurated this new mobility unit for the paratroopers. So when the war broke out, the 98th Division went in, and the paratroopers went in just in their heels, like just behind them. And so it's kind of frustrating because on the one hand, all of our good buddies that we left behind, because the unit kind of got split up, and so the original unit and some of the original guys of the unit remained there, and then here we came along, right, in a separate mobility unit, but with the paratroopers. So it's like we've been throughout the whole war, basically operating different areas, but in the same battlefield, in the same battle space.
Wow.
And,
with the same people,
but with the same original guys. So we're essentially actually split up into three, if you want to be really specific, because one of our team actually went on and helped create the special mobility unit as well for the commando unit. So if anybody's ever heard of the commando unit, that's the Duvdevan,
right,
and Egos, and the other paratrooper special unit that kind of made a special division called the commando unit. And so they've been working with them. So everywhere where the commandos been, the 98th and the 35th paratroopers is how we started our war. And like with a fresh unit, with a bunch of fresh young guys, a lot of the guys that we had trained, like I said, just months before the war broke out. These are guys that are the best of the best within the paratroopers. So the Palsal guys, and
I was in San Khanim.
I know, and so you're
no, this is crazy for me to hear, because you're talking
tracking.
about commando and all this stuff. Like, you know, when I was in Beit Lead, you know, you get
Yep.
to meet each and every single one of these.
Yep.
And classic San Khanim to tell you guys that they want it. You know, they want it too. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They work with so many different people because, you know, they love having diversity with what they do. But you said
the paratroopers want to be at the tip.
Yeah,
you know, tip of the spear of the battalions, and they get, of course, all the good resources. And like you said, you're right. They're going to fight for, hey, we want that too.
every Tankhan, you know, will say that they're better than everybody else. But
yeah.
But no, that was like what I'm actually like thinking about when you're talking about this is crazy for me because you know, when I was in Sakhanim, I you know, obviously wasn't there during the war. I thank God didn't have to do miluim because of being a neche and everything like that.
Mhm.
You know, you were saying that you guys started training with these people.
Yeah.
Right before the war,
Yeah.
you know, and everything, and like you were figuring all this stuff out. Your main guy went to go start a whole new thing.
Yeah.
I think that's actually insane. And then on top of that, you said you had 3 deployments. When was your first one?
So the first deployment was the morning of October 7th. You talked about Betlid. So that was our main rally point for us because of the Tzanchanim. And so we showed up in our portion of Betlid. And early morning, October 7th, I get woken up by the sirens and everything. My wife shakes me up because I was like cold asleep. I had been having a cold that I've been fighting. It was the last night of Sukkot. And so for anybody who knows the Jewish custom, you have the booths that we build, the temporary booths, and you sleep in them and all that. So one of those nights, I think I'd gotten a cold just from, you know, just the unnormalcy of life, right? And not being in your own normal bed and all that. And so that night, because it was after the 7th day of Sukkot, it was Simchat Torah, right?
Okay.
So here I'm laying in bed, and trying to get a good night's sleep, so to speak, right, to recover from my cold. And I get woken up by, because I was so out of it, my wife had to wake me up, and I hear these booms, the house is shaking, and I'm like, what in the world? And so it was very, very bizarre. And, like it took quite a while to kind of like realize like I'm not dreaming, and something really, really, out of the ordinary is happening clearly.
And this
And
was right before the war started, or as the war was
as the
starting?
war is starting, yeah, yeah, as the war is starting. And so I open my phone.
Last Simchat Torah.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Open my phone, and I look at the unit group text, and it's like a slur of text, right? From all the guys that had been up since 6:30 when the first volley came in, and they're all like, because some of my unit members and former unit members, because like I said, we're all spread out now from the original group of us that were all together. So one of our former teammates, he's living in southern Israel, and he's giving reports of the attack in Sderot,
Right.
and the terrorists are coming in and all this stuff. So imagine I'm seeing all this stuff, and of course it's like it's a Yom Tov, right? So as a religious, as an observant Jew, I guess is a good way to put it. I wouldn't say I'm religious as in Orthodox high end or anything.
Yeah, you're Jewish.
Yeah, and so I'm observant. I don't use electricity and all that kind of stuff on Shabbats and on holidays. So I keep the religious practices of Shabbat, right?
You would have known earlier otherwise.
Yeah, and so exactly, and so because I knew there was something wrong, like I said, then I picked up the phone and I saw the group text. Then I realized something seriously wrong, and then I saw, like I said, and it was just hard to process because I thought this can't be real. This must be a cyber attack. Like everything's going through your mind except for accepting what was happening, right? Because it was so far out that there's no freaking way. Just, I mean, every Israeli sharing all the information live as it's happening. So you see the terrorists that walk up to the camera of the house, the security camera, and you see their ugly mugs as they're like, I walk it in your house kind of thing. And I'm just looking at that and going, no, this is, because I can see they got combat gear. This isn't just some, bum from like East Jerusalem that's like trying to do a stabbing attack. I'm like, no, these dudes are like legit terrorists from Gaza. Like this Hamas. You can see it for anyone who knows and is in that world. But your brain is saying this can't be real. This has to be a cyber attack. This has to be some nonsense from Iran. And then I gather all my gear. I tell my family, all right, you're in the bomb shelter. I put them in the bomb shelter because, like I said, you start hearing the booms and all that. But then the rockets start hitting our area, and so we get the red alert. You have the sirens going off. My kids are in the bomb shelter, so I put them in the bomb shelter. Kiss them goodbye. Have all my gear ready in the car, and as the red alert is going, I'm driving off, right? So I'm not in the shelter. I'm not, I'm basically vulnerable to getting hit from whatever's coming at us, and just gun it to the paratroopers main base in central Israel. And as I arrive, I see Black Hawks taking off, and that's the first responders for the paratroopers. I believe it was the Pulsar guys and a few others that were being helicoptered directly to to southern Israel where the attacks were happening, and to engage with the terrorists. And so you're seeing those young kids take off, and here I am, a 20 plus year veteran, and so are the guys I'm with. Most of us are 20 plus years veterans. Some of the guys are legendary, had been in some of the most legendary units and most legendary missions. And so you have all this experience, and you're just sitting on your butt, right? You're sitting on your butt, you're defenseless. And like I said, you're just seeing all this stuff stream in from friends of yours. And then one of my teammates, like I said, in Sderot, he's like, oh yeah, engaging with terrorists right now. So he actually gets in a gun battle with a terrorist that entered his home. With his pistol, he took out the terrorist who had an AK, took his AK, and then took out another terrorist. Again, it might have been more, but from what I can recall, it was 2 terrorists that he had killed that had tried to, kill him and his family. And thank God for this guy, because he's one of the top shooters in the country who trains all the time. The dude's a machine. And so thank God that that was one of the homes that got entered. And lesson learned, for me at least, from this whole event, right, is for years, the Israelis, even though we're very good at being alert, we're very good at being aware of our surroundings, so to speak, and aware of threats or whatever, head on a swivel, so to speak. What we're not good at is training with weapons. We don't shoot a lot, right? I mean, it's counter to what everybody thinks.
So my friend actually wrote a song about this.
Yeah.
And she was like, I want to upload my song about, this was right before the war, where I was working on a music video for her and everything.
Yeah.
And she was about to, like, go about this and everything. And she's like, now I can't post it. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, listen to the chorus. And it's like, guns blazing and we don't fire. Like that was like the, and because I remember my whole entire shirut. It's like, I couldn't shoot down a ballon avira. You know what those are? Like there's these balloons that you get, that are full of fire, right? Then thank God they're not using it right now.
Yeah.
We just had like a little break there. Thank you, Ariel, for fixing everything. But no, it's really cool that you said you had 3 deployments, and like I bet you touched only on a small little amount of that first deployment. Yeah. But I kind of want to just like jump into the middle of it, like the second deployment. Like, when did that start? So you said your first one was around literally right when the war started, around Simchat Torah. Yep. You guys were getting ready for all this stuff.
So October 7th, early morning, we get the call to show up on base. And yeah, like I said, we showed up. We saw the young paratroopers take off while we're waiting to get our equipment, our gear, and years of experience just sitting there on the tarmac, so to speak, which, of course, is building frustration, because we had all been training for years in shooting, tactics, proficiency, which not everybody thinks Israel's like a real gun culture country.
Yeah, you were saying that. Yeah, we don't fire, right?
Yeah, Israel's not a gun culture country, unfortunately.
We're definitely not. If you look at IDF, we're a defense force. The same way why people carry their guns is for defense. If you look at how it takes to get a gun here, everybody has them, but for a reason. Yeah. And there's so many limitations when it comes to it. You have to have it like this. It can't be that. It has to have this.
Lots of regulations.
Yeah. You can't use this kind of ammunition. You have to use that.
Exactly.
And you have to literally go to a gun range, right? Am I wrong? Every month or so? A couple months?
So if you want to, so to get your private carry, you have, or private license, you have to go to a shooting range that's licensed with the Ministry of Weapons, and they process the individuals, right, to do their shooting evaluation, basically, and then they do a yearly refresher, which is like just a few rounds, really, each time, like 50 rounds or something, right? So that's like the maximum that most armed civilians will do. So that's what I mean by not being a gun culture. Anybody, like all my friends from the U.S., right? When I go shooting with them at their, the range, we usually shoot like 200 rounds minimum.
Wow. I mean, that's not minimum. That's a lot.
No, that's just a warm up. That's like just a warm up, right? So you'll shoot about 200 rounds before you actually will start your technical shooting, right? Whatever simulation or whatever you're trying to
practice.
What do you want to work on, right?
Train.
Yeah. So there's just different things that you can do to help improve your shooting. But kind of like to just get the rust off, so to speak, to get things going, you'll do about, like, easy with the guys I shoot with. You know, these are military guys. So again, they're not your normal shooter either, technically. But yeah, like bare minimum 200 rounds. Usually you're burning through 500 rounds each on the range for that, you know, few hour
Plus
session.
500. You're saying two
Total,
and then 5.
total, like
Oh,
about
okay.
total 500
So
rounds.
2 and then a plus 3.
Yeah. So that's a good range day for your trained, efficient gun owner in the United States. Here in Israel, nobody reaches 500 rounds.
Oh.
Not even the people that I know in the industry who are instructors, who train regularly. They're going to do around 200 rounds max. Like that's the max in a range time. So just, I mean, that's what I mean. Israel is not a gun culture country. And people just need to understand that, especially in the United States, because you look at Israel, you see all these Israeli weapons in your gun store. You can buy them. I can't. You can buy the Tavol. I have to do my military service, embrace a lot of suck in order to get my hands on one of those things. And I don't get to take it home, right? It stays
only while you're serving.
Only while you're serving.
To look good for the girls, you know what I mean?
Well, for you, yeah, because you were a paratrooper, right? So
of course,
yeah,
we're wearing dresses anyway, right?
Yeah. So yeah, no, the unit I served in, we didn't.
You didn't take home.
We didn't get the girls. You know, we weren't the Red Beret guys.
Oh no. But no, you guys, you know, that's something. Also, you were saying like people think that we're a gun culture. I'm fixating on that because I think that, you know, it's a big key point that I don't think people take into consideration is like we're not a gun culture.
No,
we're just in and I hate to use this word because it's so overused today. Yeah. But we're just an oppressed association, oppressed nation that is associated with guns,
right?
Because
of wars.
We're practically defending ourselves on a 24/7 basis.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, talking about we started this podcast on a rocket where everything right now is putting everybody's head. You know, like I'll be honest, like you know, if there was no rocket before this, we'd probably, you know, I'd probably be in like a more calm state. But I'm a little anxious because of all of what just happened.
Right.
And also on top of that, hearing your stories, I think it's like puts me in a real perspective. You know what I mean? Of like where, you know, obviously we're going through it. We're definitely going through it. We're, you know, being really, really looked down against to the point where, you know, let's pull in some really, really recent news about Amsterdam and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Amsterdam being oppressed for literally just being Jewish.
Yeah.
And looking at it.
Not oppressed.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Being
brutally
attacked, pogromed. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Lynched. Yeah. Mobbed.
Yep. Yeah. That's what happened.
I couldn't watch some of those videos.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, tens of thousands of Muslim extremists who had immigrated into Amsterdam or into the Netherlands, but specifically in the city of Amsterdam, where a soccer match is happening between an Israeli team and the Ajax or however you say there. You know, excuse me, I'm not a soccer guy. So you have the main team for the Netherlands against one of Israel's top teams having a match out, and then after the match,
Maccabi Tel Aviv, right?
It was Maccabi Tel Aviv, I believe. Yeah. Again, I'm not a soccer guy, so you know some of the soccer people might get a little, you know, oh, you didn't say, well, get over, you know,
get over.
I already said I'm not a soccer guy, so get over. I'm a basketball guy, football, that kind of thing. Any case, so at the end of the match, they go back to the you know, either to go celebrate and go to bars or go to their hotel or have a dinner or whatever the heck it is, right? Your normal,
enjoy their night.
Yeah, your normal post game event. Again, I'm not a soccer guy, but whatever they would have normally done, instead they were from some of the footage that I saw, you had police kind of trying to protect the Israeli fans and trying to get them into the subway and get them to basically get out of the area of where the game was happening. And then you had other Israelis, right, that were singled out by the angry mob that would try to lynch them, ran them over, just horrible, horrible things. I even saw footage of a woman that left a store, and this dude, big sucker, just slams her in the back with a back kick, and she goes flying into the pavement. And it's like, you know, if you're one of those people that is trying to take out your aggression against the Israeli occupiers or the child killers or the genocidal, whatever you're labeling us as, what makes you think that the actions of extreme violence towards a defenseless woman is acceptable?
I agree with you. Like I literally look at it because
Yeah.
I hate judgment. I hate
Yeah.
how much people judge nowadays. I hate
Yeah.
how much people are willing to put somebody down.
Right.
I feel 100% like we live in a movie because
Yeah.
there is no
It's
no
bizarre.
reason
Yeah.
in this world, no reason in this world
Yeah.
that you're watching a video of some random guy beat the shit, and excuse my language, I gotta bleep that now, but beat the living crap out of
Yeah.
somebody,
Yeah.
or do some insane things, but it's not in the movie. It's in real life,
Right.
and that's happening every single day, and
Yeah.
it shocks me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that. First of all, how the hell does somebody feel that that's like, that's what they want to do?
Yeah.
Like, how messed up do you have to be in your mind to want to just violently beat the crap out of somebody for no reason other than their identity and their beliefs? And then
Yeah.
on top of that, people support that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
In the name of what I just said, if whatever those labels that you're trying to justify,
Isn't that like
let's
out
put
of
the-
this world?
yeah, well, let's put things into context. If you think that that's okay as the individual who's either committed those acts or supporting those acts, let me put things into context.
Go to therapy. Sorry.
So probably need some therapy after what we've been through.
Oh,
So after a year of fighting for my life, fighting for the lives of my loved ones, my country, my people that have been genocidally attacked. That's a genocide. What happened October 7th? For those who keep saying that what we commit is a genocide, no. Stop. Okay? Full stop. Take a little, few steps back.
6.
Take a full wide shot of the reality of what really happened. Don't zoom in onto the one person that got hurt here or the one soldier that did something bad here or whatever it is that you might have heard of or might have seen on social media.
Or somebody might have told you.
Or someone might have told you, or hospitals being blown up, mosques, schools, whatever.
That stuff was crazy.
Yeah. So if that is the reason why you're thinking what you're thinking, zoom out, okay? And take a look at the full picture. Full picture is there was a genocidal attack against our people. The worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Now, by the way, we're using modern terminology. That's not exactly true. The worst attack on Jews historically goes all the way back to the pharaohs.
Yeah.
If you like.
Enslaving a whole entire nation is pretty crazy to me.
Enslaving and the murdering of tens of thousands of Jewish babies. Moses being one of those targets.
Exactly.
Who gets saved by God's grace and becomes the one that ends up leading them out of that oppression. So all the way from the pharaohs up till modern history, we have had pogroms. We have had millions of Jews murdered and tortured and killed in the most horrible ways. But in modern times, and that's just because people need to understand, our people haven't just suffered in the Holocaust and that's it. It's not just something that happened, a one-off in all history. This is a people group that for centuries have been repeatedly attacked and repeatedly pogromed and repeatedly genocide against throughout history, all the way to the time of the, like I said, back in, over 3,000 years ago with the pharaohs. So just to give people context, so we understand what true genocide is. In fact, the term genocide, and for people who use that against us, that's also an insult on top of the insult that you're ignoring the fact that we know what real suffering and genocide is. That's a special term that was created for Jews after World War II. A Polish Jew who was part of the committee to try the Nazis for war crimes, had to come up with a new terminology to describe what was it exactly that the Nazis had attempted to do against the Jews. And that term he put together from the Latin, that it's actually two words to create the one word, geno and side. Those are two different words. And hence essentially created a term that's exclusive to Jews.
Wow.
That's exclusive to the ethnic erasing of the Jewish people. And so to say that Jews
So
are
you're
doing
saying
it,
that genocide, like via definition,
yes,
is trying to erase Jews.
not specifically Jews,
Okay.
but the ethnic cleansing of Jews, yeah,
Yeah.
that term had to be created because that hadn't been done before,
Wow.
technically.
So that's genocide.
Yeah. I mean, you could say it had been done historically for some of those history buffs that really want to like split hairs. My point is,
And once you make a word, everybody uses it. So
Ex-
I know that
exactly. But my point is that the term was created in order to try the Nazis of what they did to Jews, right? So genocide's been happening in Africa. It's been happening all over the globe. Okay, different people groups trying to erase other people groups. So I'm not saying that that's exclusive to Jews. The term was created during the trials against the Nazis post World War II in order to describe in a legal manner what is it these guys tried to do. That's the point. And the fact that it was created because there wasn't a term in the English language, in the German language, in French or whatever they're speaking in Europe, in order to try these Nazis, they had to create a new term. And what I'm saying is to use this term that was exclusively created to try the Nazis and to say that's what Jews are doing in Gaza as a defense against the genocide that was attempted against us again after World War II, but by the hands of Islamic radicals, that's insulting. Because what they tried to do is clearly a genocide again. And we found in Lebanon, we found in Gaza, Mein Kampf books and other how would you say like a comic book with the themology of Hitler and the Nazis, and that they should have finished the job. Even little figurines of Hitler. Yeah. Oh yeah.
buy it at your local gift shop in Gaza.
We found it in Lebanon.
But are you serious?
Yeah. So this is what the
And
the
that was
terrorists.
on your first, second, third.
This is our third deployment is in Lebanon.
Wow.
So what I'm saying is it's embedded into their hatred towards us, and it is actually a mixed batch of the Nazi ideology and radical Islam that has created this monster of these terrorists that try to eradicate the Jewish people and are still trying to do it actively right now with those rockets that we had over our heads here in central Israel, northern Israel. All of Israel has been targeted by these same ideological maniacs. And that's kind of a long point, but the point is to say that we're committing genocide, that's insane.
Not just insane, but it's like using. I don't want to go crazy with it because I'm not that radical.
Yeah.
But it's like saying, like a Jew saying the K word to another Jew, or a black person saying the N word to another black person, and then like a white guy comes in and says to a black guy the N word. It's like you're insulting me, bro. It's like, but you say it.
Right.
You know what? No,
Right,
for
right,
real. Like
Right.
It's like I'm getting a little pissed off by how much people are looking at those small little things that you're saying. And it's not just insulting. I think it's like, I mean, I don't want to call the whole entire world, but call out the whole time. It's childish.
Yeah.
In the way of like, you can definitely tell, if somebody actually has an education or not.
Exactly.
If they come to you and they're like, but you did it, so I'm gonna do it. Or like,
That's exactly it.
my dad's cooler than your dad.
Yeah.
That's literally
Yeah.
what it sounds like to me. Like seriously, when somebody calls what we're doing a genocide, all I hear is like, your dad's better than my dad's better than your dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, it's a really childish. Also, like, it's not even just wrong or insulting. It's just like, It's like somebody makes the most obscured, like, comment, and you look at them and you say to them, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
So
It's outlandishly stupid.
yeah,
Is
for
the way
real.
I can see it. It's outlandishly stupid, and you point and you hit it right on the head. It's ignorant. You are ignorant. You are uneducated. You are stupid. And if this offends you and you fall into that camp, well, you know what? You can either cry about it, you can either be a Karen about it, yeah,
Yeah.
and like just be loud, obnoxious, and share your frustration with the world and with me and you and whoever on social media and be just a big crybaby, or or put on some thick skin and question what I just called you stupid. Prove me wrong.
Well,
Prove me you're not stupid. Go and educate yourself. Look up the terminology of what we're talking about. Look up the history of warfare and see if what the IDF has been doing in this year-plus war in Gaza, in Lebanon, in other parts of the world, okay, other missions to ford off a 7-front war against us. So 7 parts of the world that are targeting Israel. It's not just the Gazans, it's not just Lebanon. It's from Iraq, it's from Iran, it's from the Houthis in Yemen, it's from Syria. Okay. So we have a multi-front war here, okay, that we're getting hit from every direction. And we have been fighting this war in the most ethical way possible. And creating history.
Which is crazy, by the way.
And creating history.
Try to fight a war ethically. Just understand.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because first of all, there isn't such a thing as an ethical war. By the way,
I know this.
There's
I'm educated.
Exactly. Yeah. Because that's the thing is people live inside a bubble of a university within closed 4 walls in a library, so to speak, and you open up a book and you study war, you talk about it with your friends, and you talk about all the hypotheticals, you talk about pathicism, being a pacifist.
Oh, pacifism.
Thank you. and you discuss these wonderful ideas. But guess what? They're ideas. You have been in war. I have grown up in war. And I can tell you there is nothing ethical, there's nothing okay, there's nothing clean cut about war. War is war. War is hell. War is miserable. War is bad. No, war is good. Most importantly, when it comes to us, Israelis, we didn't choose this war. And we haven't chosen any of the wars we fought. Like you pointed out too, we're a culture of defense. We have the Iron Dome, the David Sling, It's like, really? That's our response? Is creating something that's going to knock out the projectile that's sending weapons of mass destruction towards our main cities with millions of people?
What country has
the United States? Okay, if you want to talk about ethics, the United States, had they been under the same reality, and not for a year plus, not for 400 plus days, okay,
we're talking 70 plus
with
years.
Millions of their civilians under constant rocket threat, one rocket into Washington D.C., one rocket into New York City, one rocket into L.A., America would obliterate the source.
Obliterate it straight up.
They would flatten the area. And I know this to be a fact, okay? Because I know enough war fighters, friends of mine, people who also are in political, policymakers and all that. Been doing security for a lot of these people for many years, and they all say the same thing. Nobody would put up with this crap.
I think
but Israel does, and Israel gets blamed as the bad guy and gets all these crazy labelings.
That's fact. I think if you take all that into consideration, your first point of take a step back, 100% there. Okay?
Yeah.
If you look at all this and you're upset at us as Jews, take a step back, buddy.
Yeah.
Number two,
and take a deep breath.
Big one.
Before you say anything,
And number two is like you
Because
said,
you need oxygen for your brain
oh,
to function, by the way.
to learn things to actually, no, it's true. With the brain cells, I bet have been killed over this, you know. But
Yeah.
but no, the second point I think, like, other than stepping back for a second, is
Yeah.
like, take that second really, to educate yourself. Because I watched YouTube or Instagram or something. There's this American comedian Zach something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
great. I love his
I
content.
think I know who you're talking about.
He brought two
He's a
Israeli.
Canadian or something like that.
Exactly.
He was on Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Talking about something about his gig that they got on his case about
For sure.
certain jokes he made that people didn't like.
For sure. Yeah.
Right?
This
Is that
guy.
that guy?
Exactly that guy
young
with
kid,
the
yeah.
slick black back hair. Black hair.
I don't know the names of these guys,
Whatever.
But,
Yeah. Zach
but
something.
I think I've seen. Yeah.
Do you know his last name?
No,
I don't either.
But
Sorry
I have,
about that, Zach. If you're watching this, which I don't think.
Yeah.
But
But I have seen the conversation about what's politically okay to say, not say.
so if you
Jokes
see him,
And he's not
he
the only
took-
comedian, by the way. Lots of comedians are being attacked for what they cannot say.
Well, not about the attack. He made great content.
Okay.
He brought two survivors from the Nova
Okay.
to New York to interview random people in Central Park. He goes around, he meets people, and he asks them, "Are you pro Palestine?" They're like, "Yeah, down with Israel." And he's like, "Well, would you be open to understanding, some other side? Meet these people." And they're like, some of them were like, I don't even want to talk to you with your made up
I know
stuff.
what you're talking
like,
about. Yeah, it's
and,
another
like,
kid altogether.
all
Another guy
these things,
altogether. Yeah,
people
yeah.
don't even want to be educated. So
Correct.
that's where I call them dodos.
Correct.
In the way of like,
Correct.
if you're not even willing to be educated, if you're not willing to take that step back, if you're not willing to look at the whole situation for what it is,
Yeah.
like,
You don't want to
first
listen
of
to
all,
another
I
narrative.
feel a lot more calm
Yeah.
in that way
Yeah.
because now I know you're just crazy. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'll go back a little bit to the point I was trying to make, earlier, is like, I really don't understand how so much bad can happen, and then you can look at it as like Karens. You said you brought
Mhm.
up Karen. I think it's a perfect example of what's happening. It's like when Karens were starting to be a thing, it's because people were pissed off that people would tell them how to actually act properly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
And they'd be like, "What am I doing?" And with a motorcycle, like blowing smoke into this woman's face.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Can you please stop?" And like,
Yeah.
"You're such a Karen." It's like, she's not Karen. You're
Yeah.
just, being obnoxious.
Right. Right.
And then it got worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. Just to be clear, that's not what I'm talking about.
No, right. But
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
what I'm trying
somebody
to talk
who's being
about.
provoked. What I'm talking about is somebody that is feeling entitled to be pissed off about anything and everything, and nothing
No,
can be
that's-
discussed.
Exactly.
Nothing can we sit down and have a rational conversation on. Instead, you're just loud, obnoxious, screaming, and like you point out, and I don't want to hear anything that you have to say. Well, then how can you judge me or that person if you're not willing to hear them out?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's that attitude of, I have an opinion and I don't even want to hear what you have to say for your defense, or just to point out, even not defense, like, this is my stance. Instead, I'm going to tell you what you believe and what you stand for, even though it's wrong.
Right.
And I'm just going to be obnoxious and loud and angry
For no reason.
Yeah, if you even try to correct me. And it's like, that attitude, that's the problem, right? Like you're saying,
I think what
that like they wouldn't want to listen to these people who were at the Nova, right? Like, oh, I don't want to meet them. Why wouldn't you want to meet that person?
Yeah. Like, as somebody who actually was there. But I think something that's really interesting about you,
Yeah.
that I don't think anybody, I know, or anybody who talks crap about Israel, especially doesn't know. But, a lot of Americans, people who aren't in Israel right now, and people around the world, don't know the idea of, like, first it was Gaza, then it was Lebanon, and now it's Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, and Iraq or Iran.
Iraq and Iran.
And Iran and other places now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
now it's a whole big thing. And somehow it's crazy to me that they're still focused on one or two things. You know what I mean? They're still focused on, Hamas and Hezbollah. That's
Right.
like the main focus right now.
That's the only thing the news is talking about.
And it's crazy to me
Yeah.
because, like, I mean, a lot more. I know a lot more living here,
Yeah.
but I don't think a lot of people understand that. You know, like, so you started your first deployment in Gaza.
Yep.
Your second one was also Gaza.
Second deployment was also Gaza.
Obviously it took
Yeah.
longer than we thought
Yep.
because you were trying
Yep.
to be as ethical as possible, which is not something
Literally.
that any army in the world has ever done.
Well, it was two
Um,
reasons. A is because we operate very methodically
Yeah.
and with a very high moral as possible standard within a war context.
to the point where it's so moral
Yeah.
that somehow, you know, we sadly hurt our own people because of how moral we are.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
We're trying to
Yep.
put everybody else in front of us.
Yep.
That somehow, we got mixed in the fire, and
Yeah.
I mean, that's war.
So yeah.
But
And then-
how does that explain? Like that explains how ethical we are in the way of like, if we want where America is, you literally just said, and
Yeah.
I agree with you,
Yeah.
that if one rocket went into DC, God can tell you, everybody in the world could tell you, America's flattening it and making a whole new like resort. You know what I mean? For
Right.
real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Donald Trump's gonna be there tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to me,
Yeah.
like I'm still like flabbergasted from this whole entire
So-
war,
so
and it's
ju-
been over a year.
So think about it that way, right? It's because we are working very methodically to minimize any civilian casualties. Period. Not it's okay to have a certain percentage, but our goal is actually 0. And so that's on top of that's like first of all. Then the other reason why this war has been dragging out is because of the Biden administration
Mm.
that has been pushing us and forcing our hand that when we have the momentum going to stop, ceasefire, da da da. While the enemy
Were there actual ceasefires during this war?
for us, so
Like the Ramakkal calls everybody stop shooting.
yeah. So in December, right, we were in the momentum of moving the war effort and all that, and then had to come to a full stop because the United States are pulling their munitions supplies, which they're supposed to deliver as part of the defense deal that we have with the United States, where we develop technologies and so on. And it's created in such a way that we're basically dependent on the United States to create certain munitions and bullets and so
I
on.
didn't know this.
Yep, because we used to have an industry in Israel. We used to have an industry where we developed our own. But back in during Prime Minister Barak's period, this is like around 2000, he had this bright idea of a minimized military industry in Israel. And we kind of basically outsource everything, right? We outsource our technology and our weapons developments in other countries, not in Israel, is the idea, right? And in this way, part of the concept is that basically we also develop ties with certain countries that, by the way, if I were to list them all, you would look at them and say, wait, what? This country's involved with the weapons development, and they're sending it to other countries, and involved in the creation of wars in other countries that, they're not so popular. But those countries, these are European countries, right? That are considered to be the pacifist country,
Right.
the like the UN, we don't.
We don't do anything.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't. We're not part of that.
Yeah, but you are developing some of the
UNRWA
most.
is not a.
but they're developing a lot of this munitions and
also mobilizing it.
Yep, and they're getting it to all these countries. So, point being is, it's a little complex, but the bottom line is, because there's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of hush hush involved. Like, not everything is in the open, because, like I said, depending on which country we're talking about, and that Israel has weapons deals with and whatever, it will piss off some people. It will make other people happy, etc. Right? So it's a sticky world for anybody who knows the defense industry, it's not a clean cut like we would all like to think in Western countries. Oh, America would have nothing to do with, right? Or Israel would have nothing to do. Hey, diplomacy is many times is a lot of compromise, and it's making certain deals with certain countries that's not going to look good on paper, but there are good reasons why you have those developments and whatever in different countries. All that to say, because of those deals, Israel is put in a very vulnerable place where we are dependent on the U.S. Munitions to carry out our wars. That's the bottom line. And what a lot of Americans think is that they're funding another war because they're pissed off about Ukraine.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
So you're not comparing apples to apples. You're comparing apples to oranges. It's not the same deal.
Right.
The what's going to Israel?
It's like apples to donkeys, really. It's so not the same.
It's
thing.
not at all, because you're getting nothing in return from Ukraine. Okay,
Right.
What you are getting is you are getting business. How would you say? Certain rights. Okay, business rights that are happening in that go through Ukraine. Okay, that again, I don't want to get too into a lot of these conspiracies. I don't want, but the point being is the United States does have a reason to be supporting the war with Ukraine.
Okay.
And again, it has to do with diplomacy. It has to do with, certain interests that the U.S. has. But when it comes to Israel, it's not at all on the same level at all with Ukraine. Not at all. It's
Wow.
not at all. America's winning through and through. You're winning through the development of technologies that are co-produced with us. Those technologies are being sold to many, many countries. You're making billions of dollars every year off of our technology, which really the main brainchild of a lot of those technologies are Israelis. So in other words, without the Israeli engineers and minds behind a lot of these projects, your project will never come off the ground.
I totally agree.
Now, I'm not saying Americans are incompetent. I'm not saying that at all.
No, and I don't think that you're saying other countries are incompetent. I think that
It's just a fact.
It's just a lack of appreciation for what we have done and for what we have, built in it.
What Israel's
70
contributing?
years.
Yeah, what Israel's
You know, s-
contributing?
What are we, 80 years now?
Coming on 80 years. Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's crazy.
77 now, give or take.
When's the next birthday?
Very shortly.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it coming up?
May. You got me on the spot here. It's in May.
It's in May, right?
I believe.
Yeah. Wow. No, I think there's so much going on right now.
Yeah.
And we got to wrap it up just because don't want the podcast to run too long.
Yeah.
But I could talk to you for 6 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really think that from this podcast, I think the biggest point that I think that we've gotten, and we got to sit down for a part 2 whenever you're available.
Mhm.
Guys, stay tuned. But but because I still want to go on your 3rd deployment. I want to push, and by that time, sadly, I think you might have more.
Mhm.
Thank God you're home now. You're with your family.
Yep. We've had a lot of miracles.
A lot of miracles, and I'm really happy to
Yeah.
see you. I saw you before the war.
Mm-hmm.
I got to meet you beforehand, which has been such an honor, really, and I'm really, really happy we got great guys like you, keeping us safe, because, I wouldn't feel as safe as a civilian here today, and I tell every single person in America I'm getting emotional about that. I get emotional every freaking podcast, but because it's such deep stuff. It really, really, I live here, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't feel so safe here if it wasn't for each and every single person that surrounds me.
Mm-hmm.
And for all those crazy guns that everybody thinks that we have a gun crazy, nation over here.
Right.
But I just wanted to ask you, do you have anything you want to just, last point, tell everybody, wish.
Yeah. Well, I think I could end with this is what you're, carrying on what you're saying there. People need to understand that the only reason why we have a relative peace and security for our civilians in Israel is, like you pointed out, is because there are people that are being deployed 24/7 in the cold, in the rain, in every miserable condition possible, in the heat.
Thank God it's hot in November in Israel. If you guys want to come to the beach, this is where it is.
Yeah. So second deployment. So first deployment was in the dead of winter.
Right.
Right as winter kicked off, and then our second deployment was in the beginning of the summer season. So I ended up with hot heat rashes, I think they're called.
Really?
Oh yeah, heat rashes, heat exhaustion. My whole team, because we were doing missions
One
rarely.
after another, one after
Yeah,
another.
rarely where because most of our
Not
missions.
rarely. Not
No,
rarely.
No, I was gonna say, so rarely do we do missions in daytime.
Okay.
Our missions are usually in the cloak of darkness. But we had one of those days where it was like from the morning till the night, we were just mission after mission after mission throughout the day. And had we not, during every break, taken we had a good team where we were able to get resupplies. So where we would, come out of the strip and have a moment of break, we just downed like just tons and tons of water, and just cold water that had been chilled for us from one of our teammates. And so if it hadn't been for that, if it was just going
And
off
the
of
good people around you.
exactly having that support, we'd have been toast. Okay, with just your
Literally.
yeah, literally with just your water supply that you carry on you, it wouldn't have been enough.
You're talking about that little mime and
The one
the backpack?
yeah, the water
3 liters isn't enough?
no
For 7 days of
for 7 yeah for what was it, like a 14-hour day, maybe
What?
more, I think. Yeah, it was a long
That's
day.
crazy, dude.
Yeah,
14 hours.
oh yeah, and then we had a broken down tire in the heart of Gaza. So
Make it good.
so the driver is trying to switch the tire in the blazing heat and
In the middle of a war zone.
in the middle of a war zone, and they
You
end
think
up
a flat sucks, by the way.
exactly.
You know? Like,
So and there is no like, oh, let's go sit at home in the air conditioning.
I was
going
gonna
to
be like, call AAA.
yeah, no, you're AAA, right? And so that's our specialty, right? It's to be able to overcome a lot of those challenges and train for and whatever,
Wow.
and all these contingencies. And then again, last deployment, I mean, it's by miracle that we're even here, because my team have been in a few 100-meter proximity to maybe 3 or 4 mass casualty events, where you had in the last one in Lebanon, we had 5 guys killed with mortars going right over your head, hitting a group of soldiers. Literally, we're actually watching them, and I remember seeing the explosions happening and going, huh, so we're hitting the enemy. Like, you know what I mean? It was like this weird, like,
Oh my
like,
gosh.
all right, good, like we're, that was my
And then
mind.
it comes over the radio.
And then
you're
it comes over the radio, and then you go, crap, that's
No.
not us hitting the enemy, that's the enemy hitting us, right? And then we show up on the scene to help with the mass casualty event, and searching for body parts, right? Trying to account for every piece of the individuals that were hit, helping the wounded, etc., right? And you're just like, wow, that was close. Talk about danger close, that's danger close. So stuff like that happening multiple times around you, seeing body bags multiple times throughout this war, and just realizing we've been this close to death so many times. We'd had RPGs fired at us, snipers firing at us, you name it, mortars. But by miracle, my whole team have made it through this, 300 plus day, 300 plus days of deployment.
Baruch Hashem. Thank God.
And thank God none of us have been killed. And I did a little video with one of the guys that we actually helped pull him out of Gaza, one of the wounded
It's on your
paratroopers.
Instagram?
It's on my YouTube.
On your YouTube.
It's on my YouTube.
We'll definitely tag that down below.
So yeah, I mean, so it's like, what I'm saying, there you experience a lot of very close calls, right?
Can't imagine.
Here's this kid that got hit with a 50 cal rifle, okay, a 50 caliber round hit in the torso. We had evacuated him and his teammate.
That's the one you have the video with.
Yes, we evacuated him and his teammate just weeks before, and then he went back in, and then he got hit with a 50 cal, and then we visited him in the hospital, right? Because we had
And he's alive.
and he's alive. Yeah, Yeah, it's
That is a close call.
yeah, it's a miracle because anybody who understands ballistics, understands weaponry, um, I can count on one hand the number of people I know historically, not just in the IDF, historically, globally, that have been hit by 50 cal and have lived to tell the story. Okay. And right now I only know of two. Okay. On a, personally, one of them also, by the way, I interviewed on the podcast was General Boykin, who is a 3-star general.
Yeah, tell everybody about
know.
your podcast also.
So I have the Doron Keidar podcast, and that's where you can hear again some of these stories. I try to bring just people from all backgrounds, but the I guess you could say the thing that kind of brings everyone together, even though it's Muslims, Christians, Jews, you name it, Druze.
The Druze are the dude Jews. That's what I always say.
Funny. Yeah, I mean, so I try to bring a kind of like a multi perspective of people to try to talk about Israel, and that's I guess the the central thing that everybody talks about on the podcast. But again, like I said, I try to get a wide variety of opinions, ideas, faiths, and the whys, so that people understand it's not just a Jewish thing to support freedom, to support justice, to support righteousness, to support human rights, all of what Israel represents, and all of why these people support Israel. Not because Israel is a warmongering nation, not because we are fighting, or not fighting, but because we're promoting the discrimination of faiths, religions, and destroying the rights of others, but the very opposite, right? And so some of these stories on the podcast, the little clip that I did with
That's
the
so
50
important.
cal survivor from the 202nd paratroopers.
You're gonna have to show me this right after.
Yeah. So I mean, that's like I said, this has been within a year of fighting, which is also the longest war Israel's ever fought as well. So in a way, we're creating history, we're being a part of history, we're writing the playbook for a lot of future warriors, both in United States and in Europe, Australia, and all the different war fighters who are going to have to fight wars all over the world. They're all going to learn lessons learned from our year plus, God willing, going to end soon, war that we've had. Because what we have done is we've created history. And what I mean by that is there's no other military in the world that has achieved such high goals with the high amount of terrorists eliminated and the low number of civilians casualties, both in Gaza and in Lebanon and in all the other countries, like I said, where we're being attacked by and that we have retaliated against, right? So pinpointed strikes, the beeper strikes in Lebanon, okay, against Hezbollah. I mean, this right here is why Israel is what Israel is. We are a nation that knows how to think outside the box. And we're a nation that, because of our morality, and see the whole beeper thing, we got criticized for it, because so many people got hurt, whatever crap.
It was to
It's
be
the very opposite.
as accurate as possible.
It's the very opposite. And the reason why we did that way of striking, which, by the way, just to plant all of those radios, beepers, and electronical devices in the hands of the enemy.
Yeah.
Like, think about that.
How hard is that?
How hard is it? What, you think they're idiots? You think they're stupid?
Like, oh, thank you so much, Israel.
Yeah, right. No, they knew, like, they vetted, and they, trust me, when they get weapons and whatever, it's not a,
And it's not easy for Israel, especially, to go through and to get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the fact that we proved to our enemy that, hey, I can get into your bedroom, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And I can plant a device where I want to get you when you're alone. Sweet dreams.
Wow.
That right there, that's epic. Nobody has done this. No one in the world has done this. Not even the United States, which, by the way, I have a lot of respect for the United States, because again, I have a lot of good friends who are special forces background, intelligence background, and have that I have a lot of respect for, and I've seen and read a lot of books and history from wars that the United States have fought, CIA, you name it. But nothing like this has happened.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a lot to say about Israel, right? For such a small country and such small resources in comparison to the United States. I mean, hello, comparison to Russia, comparison to China, and to carry out these kind of strikes, and with such a small military to carry out such a successful war. And we're not a professional military. We're reservists, right?
Right.
We're normal Joe
You're
Schmoes.
50-year-olds
Yeah.
running around.
Yeah.
Running.
Yeah. And that's another thing to keep in consideration, right? Because again, when you look at the United States or you look at Russia or China and their war fighters, okay, especially if they're in the special forces world, these are people who are paid, who are professionals, who that's their lifestyle,
Right.
right? That's where you go to work.
Yeah.
We go and do reserve duty, we train, and then we go home.
For sure.
So that's why I'm saying that's why it's historic. And those guys are going to be learning from us because they're saying,
please,
with all of our resources, if this is what these guys have been able to do and we can't do, we got a lot to learn from these,
yeah, and
simple.
I think just to close that all of this off and to close the podcast because we are running a little long.
Yeah.
But I always talk about my own perspective.
Yeah.
As somebody who is literally, I chose to be Jewish. I'm a ger. Okay?
Right.
I think you, and I grew up that way. But like, I can understand now throughout everything, no matter how much people want to oppress or be against Jews. I chose to be here, and I will still choose to be here because of everything of what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I really resonate with. And I hope that hopefully everybody else gets to hear that. So we got to close down the podcast. Doron, we got to continue this conversation because
Absolutely.
this has been amazing and really insightful. I didn't know half the things you said. Also, first of all, again, thank you so much for everything that you've done for this country. And really, guys, if you haven't checked out his page on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube now.
Yep.
He's also doing lives. He's getting in the social media game.
Yeah.
More and more every single day, as he should, because he has so many amazing, really deep, crazy stories, as you've heard. So guys, just listen, keep in tune. Thank you again, and thank you, Ariel, for helping us on the camera. I know it was a little rough today, but yeah, guys, stay in tune, and we'll catch you on the flip side.